Hi, everybody. Welcome to our monthly Zoom program. We're very excited to see everybody here. We'll give it a couple of seconds. Scott, how's the weather for you today?
Well, it's been a little chilly but sunny here in Madison. Kind of feels like that very prototypical early spring day when the trees are still bare and everything's brown, but we get some of that blue sky and you can tell the light's getting a little bit higher around midday.
Yeah, I decided to take a chance and not wear a jacket today, and maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, it's still a little chilly for that in Wisconsin.
Yeah, yeah. I might want to rethink that.
The, the sun can be so tempting, though.
Yes, I agree. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, take us away.
All righty. Well, hello there. Let us know in the chat where you are joining us from. Like Scott and I were saying, it was a very sunny day. However, I do wish that that was slightly warmer. Has spring started in your neck of the woods? I've been seeing some bulbs coming out, and I actually did see a robin jumping on the grass in my front yard. So I'm going to say spring is here in Wisconsin. My name is Lisa Hardy, and I am the program administrator at the Center for Railroad Photography and Art. I'm so grateful so many of you are able to join us tonight. After I saw the image used on tonight's title slide, I couldn't get the photograph out of my head. Joe Stroppel captured an engineer leaning out the window of a Kawasaki C3 cab car 5014, surveying the platform at, and I always say this wrong, I think it's Patchig Station in February 2022. There's something about that pose that piqued my interest, and I had to know, do we have any similar poses like that in our collection? My search brought me to this photograph by the center's founder, John Gruber. An engineer is seen operating a Canadian Steam Railway National Locomotive number 6218 on November 19th, 1966. Is that a similar pose? Imagine my surprise when I found that Jim Shaughnessy had also captured a worker looking out from the car as two other workers are seen standing beside Pennsylvania Railroad steam locomotive M16734 in May 1957. Could that be another pose out of a cab? This time it was Robert Hadley who captured a Grand Trunk Western Railroad worker in steam locomotive number 5046 in Richmond, Michigan around 1940. And yet another Shaughnessy photograph of Canadian National Railway steam locomotive number 5293. And the same pose yet again. There must be something about leaning out the window of a locomotive with your elbow resting on the frame. This search reminded me of how much fun it can be to review photographs in our collection. I encourage you to go to our Railroad Heritage Visual Archive at www.railphoto-art.org/collections and see what you can find in our collection of photographs. We are regularly updating what can be seen online. In fact, I spoke with our Director of Archives and Collections, Adrian Evans, and found out that there will be a posting of Ron Hill photographs coming very soon. The Center for Railroad Photography and Art has a mission to preserve and present significant images of railroading. To fulfill this mission, we have a number of programs that include online programming like tonight's presentation, our annual conference, traveling exhibitions, an annual photography competition named for our founder called the John E. Gruber Creative Photography Awards Program, publications that include books, many of which can be found on our website for purchase at www.railphoto-art.org/books, and our quarterly journal called Railroad Heritage, plus our Railroad Heritage Visual Archive. It is because of our members that we are able to offer this programming. If you aren't a member yet, we'd love for you to join us. Membership includes access to our members-only online programs, discounted rates for our annual conferences, and a subscription to our quarterly journal, Railroad Heritage. Visit our website at www.railphoto-art.org/support for more information. I also want to encourage everyone to visit and follow us on social media for updates. You can find us at RailPhotoArt. I may have heard whisperings that we're bringing back Friday Favorites, where CRP&A staff will share their favorite images on social media. You are not going to want to miss on seeing those images. Did you notice that I found another image of the pose? John Gruber captured this one in July 1950 of a Denver and Rio Grande Western worker leaning out the cab. I think I need to come up with a name for this pose, or maybe one has already been named. I don't know. Maybe I need your help. As an audience, what do you think it should be? Share with me in the comments. Maybe the elbow lean or the engineer's pose? I'm sure you all can come up with something better than my ideas. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. The deadline to submit photographs in the 2025 John E. Gruber Creative Photography Awards program is quickly approaching. This winning color photograph from Awards 2024 was taken by Australian photographer Ewan McLean of the Victorian Goldfields Railway in April 2011. It's almost like Ewan knew that the theme for 2025 was going to be smoke. More information about the submission process can be found on our website at www.railphoto-art.org/awards/smoke. This was last year's black and white winner for our awards program by David Wiles. I thought it was a great way to remind those who are already registered that our annual conference is almost exactly 1 month away. Time to start planning your travel transportation and what you're going to pack. If you'd like to join us, visit our website at www.railphoto-art.org/conferences/conversations-2025. There are only a few spots remaining. I'm now going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Scott Lodes.
Well, thanks so much for those great updates, Lisa. As President and Executive Director of the Center for Railroad Photography and Art, it's one of the great joys of my life to work with such a talented and devoted staff and board of directors. And it is a privilege for all of us at the center to be part of a much bigger community of passionate and supportive people brought together by our common love of trains, railroads, and images of them. This focus on people, whether it's the people of railroading or the community of railroad aficionados, is really part of our DNA at the center. John Gruber, our principal founder, always emphasized the people of railroading in his photography and research, and those are traditions that we proudly carry forward today. Railroads connect us, quite literally, across time and space. They also connect us through the strength of our shared interests. All of you, our members, supporters, and viewers, make our work possible. You keep our community vibrant, you enable us to offer programs like this one, and you inspire our growth and aspirations. We couldn't do any of this without you, and honestly, we wouldn't want to. We are grateful every day to be able to preserve and present significant images of railroading and then to share them with you. Thank you. We have a fantastic program in store for you this evening. We're so glad you've joined us. This show is very much in the spirit of another of our favorite ways to approach railroads at the center, what we like to call the art of place. And I will hand it back now to Lisa to introduce our presenter for this evening. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Scott. Well said. I'm just going to share my screen again here. All right, Scott, can you see that?
Yes, indeed.
Perfect. Here we go. A quick reminder that we love seeing your comments. Use the chat icon shown here to chime in with comments during the presentation. Have you come up with a good pose name yet? Put it in the chat. If you have a question, please use the Q&A icon to submit your question. We will be hosting a short Q&A session to follow this presentation. If you have a question at any point during tonight's presentation, make sure to post it in the chat, or in the Q&A, not the chat, to ensure that we see it. And now on to the main event. I share a love of musical theater with our presenter tonight. In fact, Joe recently was cast in the role of Miss Trunchbull in the Janine Rimsky Theater's production of Matilda, the musical. You can see clips of this performance and hear Joe's incredible singing voice on his YouTube channel. I loved it. Joe will also be performing the role of Toby in Sweeney Todd in July. I look forward to seeing what his next role will be. Joe Stroppel was born and raised in Glen Cove, New York. He currently studies music and classical voice performance at Hunter College in New York City. From a young age, Joe took pictures and video recordings of the Long Island Railroad trains at the Sea Cliffs train station just blocks from his house. While he showed an interest in photography during his teen years, his pursuit of a music career drew him away from trains. It was during the COVID pandemic that Joe took up the railroad photography as a serious hobby, and he now aims to share the different characteristics of the LIRR through his lens. Another interesting fact about Joe is that at the age of 13, he was one of the CRPNA's youngest scholarship recipients to attend the annual Conversations Conference in April 2016. He's had his work featured by the LIRR MTA and Amtrak Downeaster social media pages, and has photos published in several editions of Railfan and Railroad magazine. When he isn't trackside, Joe is working on developing his operatic tenor voice with his private instructor, going to New York Mets baseball games with his dad, and art gallery hopping with his girlfriend. Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, you scared me for a second with that Yankees. Oh my goodness. All good, all good. Thank you. My name is Joe Stroppel. Thank you for having me. All of it. I'm so grateful for the CRPA to be having me presenting today. I'm a little nervous, I can't lie. This is my first time presenting my work in such a public way. Let me share my screen right now. Can everybody see this all right?
Yeah, looks great, Joe.
Great, thank you. So I grew up on Long Island, as mentioned before. I uh, I I spent many weekends as a kid taking the train to and from Oyster Bay. I live in Glen Cove, New York, which is right on the Oyster Bay branch. My mom would take me on rides to and from Oyster Bay on the Long Island Railroad, hauled by DE-30 locomotives. Uh, a lot of great memories. I think that's how I became a rail fan, and I've been photographing the Long Island Railroad since I was a little kid. Um, Tracking the Long Island Railroad, exploring the route of Dashing Dan. Um, well, I want to break down this name for a second. Tracking the Long Island Railroad is actually also the name of one of my favorite video series, narrated by one of my good friends and an idol of mine, Tim Hosey. Uh, a lot of videos taken during the transition era of the Long Island Railroad between the GP38s and Power Packs and the DE-30s of modern times. The Long Island Railroad is called the route of the Dashing Commuter, but I figured I'd call my presentation the route of Dashing Dan to give a direct nod to Dashing Dan, and that's him on the right. That's the logo my dad grew up with while he was working at my family tavern, Stroppel's Bar in Glen Street, New York, right next to the train tracks. Yeah, so like also what mentioned before, I started seriously pursuing trying to make the Long Island Railroad interesting to a wider audience during 2020, which was during the pandemic. I was pursuing my music career, and I had just gotten into college, but I with very little to do, I decided to go out and take some more pictures. And I want to share what I've gotten in the past 4 or so years. Um, this is a map of the Long Island Railroad. Uh, Let me pull up some information about the Long Island Railroad right here. The Long Island Railroad was chartered in 1834. It's the busiest commuter railroad in North America. Has 319 miles in route and 700 miles of track length. Has 11, I believe it's 11 branch lines. I have to double check that. But it's hold on, let me have a drink of water. It's an enormous system, but for the sake of time, I wanted to narrow it down to my most shot branches, which are the Oyster Bay branch, the main line, and the Montauk branch. The thing about the uh, the Oyster Bay branch is the green line to the top. It's where I live. I live a few blocks away from the Seacliff train station, so I've been up there very often. The main line goes from New York City Terminal Zone, I should say, to Greenport. That's the purple line, and the Montauk branch hugs the South Shore goes from Jamaica to Babylon and Babylon to Montauk. There was also the lower Montauk branch, which I have not shot personally. There's no more passenger service down there, and I just haven't gotten there personally to get the freight operations. I want to really start though with Nassau Tower. That's me on the right when I was 8 years old at Mineola train station. Mineola is about 20 minutes from where I live, and it's where I spent many Friday afternoons after school watching trains. Beautiful, not beautiful, but in its way, beautiful Nassau Tower. It was a great location on the junction of the main line and the Oyster Bay branch. And these are two of my early photos. The one on the left was taken when I was 12, and the one on the right was taken when I was 14. Many times were spent here, and this location was forever changed in September of 2021. The tower was closed in 2020 and demolished in 2021 to pave the way for the triple track project between Floral Park and Hicksville on the main line. Before that, as interesting as this place was to photograph, there was a disgusting bottleneck between Floral Park and Hicksville where 4 tracks would become 2, and a lot of congestion would take place with so many trains running down this stretch during rush hour. This was my last photo taken at Nassau Tower in Mineola. This is the main street was closed, and the tower has been stripped of its facade, and it was going to be demolished the next day. It was a very sad day for me. This is a day in September of 2021. So I want to start with the main line, which goes from Long Island City and Penn Station to Greenport. Here are some photos from the main line. The one on the left is at Hicksville during a beautiful sunset with position light signals. And the photo on the right is at Long Island City, the storage yard at Long Island City, which is a diesel-only storage yard for trains heading to further east destinations, not electrified. I want to start this section with photos in the city terminal zone. The photo on the left was taken at West Side Yard, taken from the High Line Park. Those are 2 M7 trains sitting on tracks 17 and 18, and a crew member walking the length of both of the trains. On the top right and bottom right, both on the right, I should say, is Long Island City. More photos at Long Island City. The one on the top right is with DE30 number 416 and a yard worker, I think. And you can really get the sense of scale of these giant locomotives there. And on the bottom right is during the early morning rush, a train passing under the Pulaski Bridge. Here we are at Forest Hills, one of my favorite spots in the city terminal zone to take photos. This is a meeting of 2 M9 train sets during a beautiful, beautiful rush hour, beautiful sunset. And I had gone here with a couple friends of mine. We spent the entire afternoon taking photos here, waiting for the clouds to part. And it was about 20 degrees out. It was miserable. But eventually they did, and we were greeted with this fiery sky, this gorgeous sunset. And not to mention, Forest Hills is an incredible spot in its own right. You've got a lot of really interesting architecture around town and at the station, and you've got some position light signal bridges as well in the nearby area, including one just west of the station, as you can see. Now we get to Jamaica. Jamaica is the headquarters of the Long Island Railroad. It is the busiest station on the railroad. And every branch line comes through here except the Port Washington branch, which bypasses it via Woodside and Metzelet's Point, going out towards Flushing. This is This is a beautiful, beautiful place to take pictures, especially during sunsets. The photo on the left was taken in January of 2022. A friend of mine and I were here to take photos of the switch heaters in action, and you can see them on. But what added to the photo was this big wall of clouds, purple and blue clouds in the background, which provided this spectacular mountain-like view. And my mother always teases me and calls this photo Mount Jamaica. The tower on the right is J Tower, since it's since been remoted to JCC, the control center at Jamaica Station. The photo at the top right is the same location during a different time of year during October. And the big I think I decided to I think I cut class a little early. I left school a little early because I knew that on this particular day the sun would be framed by that position light signal bridge, and I had to get that photo. I had to, and I'm so glad I did. The photo on the bottom right is looking east at Jamaica in the other direction. You've got 3 MU trains, one of them sitting on a pocket track, and the other 2 heading west into the station. I think what makes that photo for me is that employee with the big Target bag. Here we are at Queens Village. Queens Village is another great spot at the west end of Queens interlocking, and you can see Queens Tower in the background, also remoted to JCC. A lot of great position lights here, and this is a train coming off the Hempstead branch, switching across the Queens interlocking, coming into Queens Village Station. I was actually here with a couple of friends on false intel. I was told that this signal bridge was going to be taken down that weekend. So I posted the photos and said, "Oh, the end of an era." And everybody in the comments was like, well, some people who had the inside scoop in the comments were like, "Are you crazy? That signals are going to be there here for years to come." I don't know. So, oh well. And they're still there. So this was like 3 years ago and they're still there. So obviously I had the wrong intel on that, but it's still an incredible spot. Thank goodness. Those signals are still there. The tower is still there. I have to revisit it sometime. Here's some other shots of Queens interlocking taken from the other side of the interlocking. The one on the left is at Elmont Station, the second newest station in the system behind Grand Central. And on the right is at Belrose. Some of the signals that here in the Belrose shot are gone, actually. They've been replaced with pedestals. Here we are at New Hyde Park. New Hyde Park is another spot where I spent a lot of time as a kid. Back in the day, 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, it was a 2-track affair. 3 crossings and 80-mile-per-hour running, with so many trains coming through during rush hour. It made your head spin. It was thrilling, hearing the horns, seeing the speed, being up close to the trains. It was also incredibly dangerous for like 13-year-olds like me and my friends to be hanging around there, but we didn't care. We had a great time. On the right is the same spot, New Hyde Park. A long time later, I think about 2 years ago, once the 3rd track through here was completed between Floral Park and Hicksville. And that's an M9 train heading for Huntington, a pan of it flying through the triple track, taken from the same location, just the other side of the tracks, same angle, other side of the tracks. Here's, I think, my favorite shot of the triple track. It really shows what a state-of-the-art piece of railroading it is. At sunset, this is I think train number 6040. It's a Spionk Express. Well, Spionk. Express to Babylon and then local to Spionk. But this is a South Shore train. And a lot of South Shore trains will take the main line and connect to the South Shore at Babylon via the Central Branch, which connects the main line and the Montauk Branch at Bethpage. Here we are back at Hicksville. I had an engineer friend tell me that Hicksville and Jamaica have the best sunsets. I don't know how I feel. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't operate the lines every day, but I will say this is one. This and other photos at Hicksville have come out very, very nice. This is a train heading west past the position lights just west of the station. Here's some more Hicksville shots. Hicksville is where the Port Jefferson branch splits off from the main line. On the left is an engineer friend of mine checking his watch before departure on a Z train. The Z trains ran between Hicksville and Babylon to connect travelers between the main line and the South Shore during the construction of the triple track between Floral Park and Hicksville. When the main line was shut down, they'd shuttle people to Babylon from Penn Station, operate the Z train from Babylon to Hicksville, where people would transfer to another train, which would take them either up the Port Jefferson branch or down the main line to their eastern destinations. Funny enough, this train, he's actually at the rear engine. There's two engineers on this train to save time of shuttling back and forth. There's another engineer on the east end of the train, but he's just checking his watch to make sure he's ready to leave on time. But on the right is at Hicksville Viaduct. Hicksville Viaduct is just east of the station. It's a great spot to take photos of mainline trains leaving the station. That's a work train heading towards Wellwood Siding and North Lindenhurst. I had an engineer friend tell me when I sent him this picture that this has to be the worst looking locomotive he's ever seen. And it looks pretty gnarly, not gonna lie. I think this locomotive, the number 167, this MP15AC, has since been sidelined. I think it's going to be scrapped. It looks like it's already been sidelined in this photo, but here we are, a little further east on the main line at Bethpage, at B Tower in Bethpage, New York. This is located in Bethpage State Park. It's obviously abandoned and in terrible condition, but it was built, I believe, during the Pennsy era of the railroad, and I think it had some because it was built in Bethpage State Park, it was built under the influence of Robert Moses, and you can really see that very very elaborate design. Of course, now the windows are all smashed, the doors basically kicked in, and there's graffiti all over the side of the tower, and who knows how long it's going to be around. The photo on the left is a freight train heading west, a New York and Atlantic Railway, that's the freight carrier on Long Island, heading west through Bethpage past the tower, and the photo on the right is an eastbound train for Patchogue, splitting off onto the Central Branch. I really hope this tower is around a while longer. I want to get some more photos of it. It's a real treasure. As we head further on the main line, this is one of the more renovated sections of the main line. It's 2 tracks all the way from Farmingdale, well, all the way from Hicksville to Ronkonkoma. It used to only be Hicksville to Farmingdale. Now it's been extended in 2018 from Farmingdale to Ronkonkoma. A lot of straightaways, a lot of crossings, a lot of high-speed running. It's a really impressive piece of railroad. The photo on the left is taken just east of Coastal Distribution in Farmingdale. Those are 2 ex-Long Island Railroad GP38-2s switching at Coastal. And once they finish here, they'll head west with one of the hottest trains on the New York and Atlantic operation. The RS-51, they'll be taking that to Fresh Pond in Queens. The photo on the top right is taken at Pine Lawn Cemetery. That's a Bud M3. They're the oldest electric equipment still in operation on the railroad. I believe delivered in the 80s. On The thing about Pine Lawn, which makes it such an interesting place to shoot, is that the trees always turn earliest here for some reason. So when shooting fall foliage, this is always my first spot to visit every season. The photo on the bottom right is a Pilgrim sighting. It's another ex-Long Island Railroad GP38. I think it's the same. It's the same one as in the first photo, actually, the 268. And it's waiting to take a train west of Fresh Pond, but it's got to wait for its signal first. So it's waiting for this M7 Express to shoot past first. Here we are at Ronkonkoma, the end of electrification on the main line. All of these signals, these position lights, the pedestal on the right and the train order signal on the left, these are all gone. They're replaced with color reduced aspect signals. And this was only taken about 3 years ago, so a lot has changed here, unfortunately. It was a really cool place to shoot back then. In the back is the train wash, and beyond the train wash is Ronkonkoma Yard, known as Mid-Suffolk Yard to the public. The train on the left is the Greenport Scoot, returning from Greenport, the shuttle service between Ronkonkoma and the east end of the North Fork of Long Island, I should say. It's got 2 locomotives, which is sort of an uncommon occurrence, and one of the headlights is out on the west engine. Go figure. Let me take a drink before this one. This is one of my all-time favorites. This is on the North Fork of Long Island. I don't think Long Island gets more Midwest than this. This is taken with my drone at Cutchogue. And this photo makes me think of North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock, the famous crop duster scene. This is the North Fork has vineyards all around, and they completely surround the track. And it's a really interesting place to photograph. It's very removed from anything suburban or what people would think of when they think of Long Island or any of the urban parts of the western end of the system. Here's another drone shot taken from the same day, further east at Mill Creek in Southold. This is the same train heading back west, the same shuttle train, returning to Ronkonkoma from Greenport. This is a great spot, a lot of osprey nest here, and I've walked along the grass here to get photos before, and there's a lot of fiddler crabs that'll scuttle along and try to duck out of your way as you step through the marshy grass. And here we are, end of the main line, Greenport, New York. This beautiful brick depot I think has been converted into like a boating museum or something. But this just feet behind me is the water. We're at the very end of the line. You can't go much further than this. Sadly, a few months ago, the bumper block was removed and the track was cut back to about where the train is sitting in this photo. So you really can't get this interesting photo anymore, unfortunately. But I'm glad I did. I want to check out the Oyster Bay branch now. The Oyster Bay branch is my home line. Like I say, I live a few blocks from it. And my family owned a bar right next to it. This is taken at Locust Tower in Locust Valley. This was taken from a public grade crossing, and the gates were up. The train approaching in the distance did not activate the gates until it was practically sitting in the station, so I got out of the way just after taking the shot. Locust Tower was remoted a long time ago, and it still has that beautiful keystone plaque on the side. I love it. I love it. And I got a lot of position lights here too. Oyster Bay is really interesting because there are no cab signals. It's all Rule 251, I believe. Wayside automatic signals. It's all position lights. I love my position lights. So on the left, that's at Glen Head Station, train heading west in fog, and really, really thick fog. It was I was actually rehearsing Matilda, as Lisa mentioned earlier, and I saw out the window of the studio the thick fog. And I thought, I got to get a photo of a train right now, as soon as I get out of rehearsal, because it was starting to get dark at that point. And I'm glad I did. It really came. I'm really happy with the lighting effects. The photo on the right is of the TC-82. It's an inspection geometry car heading down the dangerous hill at Seacliff. A lot of engineers might overshoot this station if they're inexperienced on this hill because it's unforgiving. But this was in some light snowfall. Here's another photo at Seacliff during the, this was towards, I think this was right after the mask mandate had lifted, so you can see the conductor still wearing a mask, but the engineer isn't. But this was at, this was getting ready to leave Seacliff, the engineer and the conductor signaling to each other. Seacliff is my home station, and I have some more photos of it on the next slide, taken during a very, very heavy snowstorm. Well, not that heavy, but it was light enough for me to get some decent photos without jeopardizing my entire camera and myself too. But Seacliff is a beautiful Victorian station building. It has a beautiful Victorian station building commemorated in 1888, dedicated in 1888, I should say. It's a really, really great place to take photos of trains, and it's just a few blocks from my house. The first photo, both photos are of westbounds during the morning rush hour, one taken from the westbound platform and one taken from the shelter at the eastbound platform. Here we are at the reverse S-curve at Glen Street. Glen Street is one of 3 train stations in the city of Glen Cove. And it was Seacliff, Glen Street, and Glen Cove are all in the city of Glen Cove. Glen Street is actually the closest to the most city parts of Glen Cove. Glen Cove itself is sort of in a very rich and detached area. The Glen Street station, just to the left of that depot, you can see behind the dual mode train. This is a morning dual mode heading to Penn Station. To the left of it is where my family's bar used to stand, Stroppel's Tavern or bar. And it was open for over 100 years, and it closed, I believe, in 1997. Here's a photo of the early years at the Fred Stroppel Depot Hotel. And we're not sure who the people in the photos are, but I assume the guy on my right was like my great-great-grandfather or something. I don't know. Here's Locust Valley again, Locust Tower. On the photo on the left is a westbound train late at night, whizzing through the station, whizzing into the station. I hope it stops, I should say. You can see that light trail, and you can see the position light signal on the right. I love it, and the train and the tower on the left. The photo on the right is locomotive 167 again, the MP15AC, causing a lot of smoke, smoking up the area as it approaches the interlocking. This was on a laser train, I believe, which is the laser trains are used during the season of fall foliage to disintegrate the residue from the leaves on the rail. This is a series from probably my favorite place to photograph on the entire railroad, Shoe Swamp Nature Preserve in Mill Neck. It's about 15 minutes from my house, and it's just a spectacular location. It's Mill Neck itself actually had a train station which was closed in the late 90s because of the ADA compliance combined with low ridership They just closed it instead of making it a high-level platform. It's not featured in this photo, but the depot still stands if you ever want to check it out. The train on the left is heading uphill at Shoe Swamp. It's going across the Shoe Swamp fill, which I think is the highlight of the location. The fill cuts through the swamp. As you're heading east, on the right is the swamp and the nature preserve and boardwalks and a lot of water and wildlife. And on the left is gorgeous Beaver Lake, and in the distance, Beaver Dam. And the photo on the bottom right, the photo on the left and the photo on the top right are taken heading in both directions on the fill. The photo on the bottom right is at Canetuck Lane, which is the only gateless crossing on the Oyster Bay branch, right near there. This is my favorite photo I've ever taken at Millneck. This is Shoe Swamp Nature Preserve, seen from my drone during early November. November of 2021. As you can see on the left, there's the swamp and the boardwalk. There's a lot of wildlife down there. And on the right is Beaver Lake, and in the distance, Beaver Dam. This is taken around 7 in the morning. This is the first train of daylight on a weekend heading to Jamaica from Oyster Bay. The train. This is Oyster Bay. This is Oyster Bay. End of the line on the Oyster Bay branch. The train on the left is sitting in Oyster Bay, getting ready to spin back to Jamaica during a beautiful sunset. And the photo on the right is taken at Oyster Bay Yard about 5:45 in the morning. The early morning dual mode to Penn Station, getting ready to leave the yard and head to New York. Oyster Bay previously only had 2 trains, one in each direction, that went to Penn Station. The rest terminated at Jamaica. Now there are 2 in the morning and 1 in the evening. 2 westbounds in the morning, 1 eastbound in the evening, I should say. The D30s or the DM30s were designed to provide dual mode service, but because of various issues with them, only a few do every day. So I want to do the Montauk branch now. My photos from the Montauk branch. Again, I kind of mislabeled this because I forgot to account for the lower Montauk branch, which runs through Maspeth and Fresh Pond, but I've never photographed that before. I've only photographed Jamaica and East. The photo on the left is taken at Valley Stream in the part of the electrified portion of the branch. That's an eastbound express for Spionk flying through during a gorgeous sunset. On the right is Babylon Station, end of electrification on the Montauk branch. A train of M7s crossing over, arriving at the station. Here are some photos I've taken from the electrified portion of the Montauk branch, west of Babylon, on the South Shore. On the left is an express train heading from Montauk to Jamaica, past Valley Tower, which is another one of the great control towers. I believe it's been remoted. I'm not sure. I think when I took this photo, maybe it wasn't, but I think it is. It has been. I'm sure somebody will clear that up in the comments. But on the top right is what is it? Freeport and the yard on the left at Freeport. A lot of position lights still here at Freeport. It's a nice location to shoot. Kind of a sketchy area, but I've gotten some nice photos there, so I can't complain. On the bottom right is Seaford, which is a rather bucolic location for being west of Babylon in a rather suburban area. It's a very nice grassy park here, And I believe this photo was actually taken or near Veterans Day. So there was a beautiful display in the park as well. Here we are at the end of electrification. You can actually just past these signals is where electrification ends on the Montauk branch. This was taken on the 4th of July of 2022, one of the busiest travel days on the Montauk branch. The train on the left, well, I should start with the train on the right, actually. The train on the right is taking a crowd of passengers and vacationers to the Fire Island ferry shuttles at Bayshore and Sayville. And the train on the left is a big, heavy-hitting Montauk Express taking people home from the Hamptons Montauk to Jamaica, I should say. This was taken. The photo on the right. I'll start with the photo on the right because these photos were taken on the same day. The photo on the right was taken near Connecticut State Park in Oakdale, with some position light automatic signals in the shot. Engine 416 leading. It's hard to see, but there's a little meatball logo under the number. It's pretty cool. Under the right number on the 416. It's pretty neat. And the photo on the left is the same train sitting at Patchogue. They often run, they always run scoots, shuttle trains between the most traveled portions of the Montauk branch, Babylon and Patchogue. And this was one of those shuttle trains. This is the photo that Lisa mentioned of the engineer doing the pose. This is at Patchogue Station, at PD interlocking. Patchogue Docks is right by the water. During a miserable snowy day, and yeah, we were just a few minutes from departure. The engineer's just surveying the platform, getting ready for his run west in challenging conditions. Once we get east of Patchogue on the Montauk branch, things start getting very, very nice. This is at the Wertheim National Wildlife Refuge in Shirley, New York. The photo was taken just east of the old Brookhaven station, which was closed in the 50s. The train is a double-ended, long, and packed Montauk train full of leaf peepers heading east. And you can see why. The color was absolutely spectacular at this time of year. It was really, really nice in the refuge and presumably further east as well. This is one of my favorite drone shots, along with the one I showed before. This is as we continue east, we continue through some beautiful scenery. On the left is the Forge River in Mastic, New York. It's one of the it's one of the bigger river crossings on the railroad. We'll get to another big one pretty soon, but that's the Musket Ball, the off-season Cannonball, jokingly called the Musket Ball, the express train from Penn Station to West Hampton and points east, non-stop run. It makes the trip in about 95 minutes. It's pretty awesome. Between New York and West Hampton, then it makes local stops and it gets longer. But on the bottom right, I'll start with the bottom right photo because that's at JJD interlocking, name for James J. Dermody, an official on the Long Island Railroad. This is an interlocking with color light signals, and I thought at this time of year it was just the reflection of the light on the steel coaches was just gorgeous. It was just gorgeous. And the photo on the top right is taken at Spionk, an engineer waiting for a signal into the yard. Just killing time until then. As we continue east of Spionk into the Hamptons, we get to the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens are just an incredible place to shoot. This is a roller coaster of sorts. This is on the this is just east of West Hampton Station and Quogue. This is an eastbound train going to Montauk during the cold winter afternoon. Um, yeah, not much else to say about this one other than the fact that the rolling hills out here really provide for what looks like a roller coaster of a ride. This is the Shinnecock Canal. The Shinnecock Canal is it's not a river crossing, it's a canal crossing, but it's one of the more interesting water crossings on the railroad because it's actually got a nice bridge and it's a nice place to shoot, both with drone and on foot. The photo on the left was taken during an autumn day in 2021 of a train with 6 cars and an engine. That sounds absolutely torturous for an engineer, but heading heading west over the canal. The photo on the bottom right is taken during a summer evening, one of the rush hour trains to Montauk, crossing the canal at sundown. The photo of the top right is taken just near the canal, actually. At the just west of the canal, there is a burial site for a Native American preacher named Reverend Paul Cuffey. He was buried right next to the railroad tracks, and it's a historical site for people to visit. And I took a photo of a train going right by there. Now this does not look like Long Island to me. This does not look like my suburban Long Island. This is Napeague Meadow in just just a little west of Montauk. As you can see, milepost 108 miles from Long Island City. That's a long way to go. The train on the left is whizzing past on a westbound express, as a westbound express from Montauk to Jamaica. It's not actually the Cannonball, even though it has the Cannonball drumhead on it. It's just the leftover equipment from the Cannonball, and it just happened to have it that day. They just didn't take it off. But it's a beautiful location. You can actually see next to the engine in the distance is this like I believe it's an art museum, and it looks like an old boat. It's really cool. The photo on the top right is also taken the same day at the meadow during sundown. And on the bottom right is Hither Hills State Park. That dirt crossing is about the most remote location you could watch a train on the entire railroad. It's like a mile hike in to actually see it. It's like an hour long hike off the road to get to this spot. But it's rewarding. It's a cool location. What you don't see in this photo, however, are the mosquitoes that were eating me alive in that photo. I want to end with a picture at Montauk Station, at the end of our Montauk branch segment. This is actually taken when I was 13 years old. It's it was I usually didn't take many good photos when I was 13, but I just the heavy snowfall really made it. It was really an incredible evening. I had gone out there with a couple of friends for the day, and we heading back, we just got hit by snow, and it made for an interesting shoot. I want to look at the Cannonball for a second. The Cannonball is a train that I've shot a lot. It's the Long Island Railroad's only named train. It runs nonstop from New York to West Hampton in about 95 minutes. It's it's a super express, and it's really fun to watch. It's a difficult train to shoot because you're shooting into the sun because it runs on Friday afternoons, Friday evenings, late afternoons at the evenings. But it's exciting to watch. It flies. It's 12 cars, 2 dual mode locomotives. They used to have a bar service on it, but not anymore. They used to have parlor cars back in the day. They don't have that anymore, but it's still a fun train to look at. Here are some of my photos from the Cannonball. from my Cannonball hunts. The one on the left is at PT Siding in Eastport. The one on the top right is at, again, that big meadow. And the photo on the bottom right is in Bayport. All taken within the last couple of years. And here are my two favorites of the Cannonball. The one on the left is going under the position lights at the east end of Babylon Interlocking. And that's the one on the left. And the one on the right is taken during the double stop at Montauk Station. The train is so long that they perform a double stop at each station. They platform the first 6 cars, let the people off, move the train up, and platform the rear 6 cars. During the Montauk Station stop, it moves right up the bumper block, right at the end of the line, and it provides for a great shot. It's just moving up right here. This was actually my first publication in Railfan and Railroad magazine. This was my first photo ever published there. I was very happy with it. That covers the main portions that I wanted to get across, but I have a few other photos that I want to share. First, from the Port Jefferson branch. Port Jefferson branch runs from Hicksville to Port Jefferson along the North Shore in Suffolk County. Long Island Railroaders and fans jokingly call it the Mountain Division because of its relatively steep grades. I know some of the viewers here from the West would scoff at that assertion, you know. But this is at Cold Spring Hill. This is one of the steepest grades on the railroad. And the train, this is during the morning rush hour, a train carefully descending the grade, trying to not slip on the icy rails during heavy snowfall, is an express train from Port Jefferson to Penn Station. Cold Spring Hill is in Cold Spring Harbor, New York, just into Suffolk County on Long Island. Here's another photo taken at the same location in the middle of summer, early in the morning. This is at Cold Spring Hill, a train of M3s, those old cars I mentioned earlier, heading up the hill during dawn. And here you get a nice view of what I mentioned before being called the Mountain Division of the Long Island Railroad. This is a dual mode train navigating the rolling hills in Kings Park, about to pass the 2 pedestal signals entering the station. You can really see that real roller coaster feel again. You see the tracks going up and down and up and down. It's a great view from this pedestrian bridge. I only have one photo from the Atlantic branch, but I wanted to share it. I only have one to share from the Atlantic branch. I have plenty of photos, but this is the one that I had time to share. This was in Laurelton in Queens. This was a train. This was a work train replacing ties and rail at Laurelton and on the Atlantic branch. It was during a bigger renovation project during the summer of 2022. The Atlantic branch runs from Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn to Jamaica, and from Jamaica to Valley Stream. It's a relatively short branch. I haven't shot it that much, but I mean relatively speaking, but this is one of my favorites. And I want to close with what I think is one of the most interesting pieces of track on the railroad. The Garden Mitchell Secondary was originally built as part of the Central Railroad of Long Island which was a competitor to the Long Island Railroad. They built these rails pretty much parallel to the Long Island's main line, and through Garden City, through Uniondale, through Bethpage, and down to Babylon. The section between Bethpage and Babylon is still in service on the Central Branch. The Long Island Railroad, of course, bought up the Central Railroad of Long Island, and these particular tracks around Uniondale and east of Garden City were kind of, as you can see, kind of left to rot. They're really they're in terrible shape. They're in terrible shape, but they're overgrown. It looks like a jungle. No more passenger trains down this section, obviously. Really only freight trains, or work trains, I should say. Long Island work trains, when they often store work equipment down here in Uniondale. And it was also the route of the circus train, the Ringling Circus train, which took its show to the Coliseum in Uniondale, Nassau Coliseum. And this is my last photo. This is one of the most quintessential. This is like a quintessential photo of the Garden Mitchell Secondary and how neglected it is. This is a multi-lane highway with no protection. So these guys have to work their way across, flag the crossing of this highway, and crawl across. And you can see the engine has just cleared that lane, and this driver is zipping right behind the locomotive. Again, our friend 167, the one that engineer said is one of the worst looking engines in the entire fleet. But keep coming back to that. But the Garden Mitchell Secondary it looks disgustingly beautiful. It's in terrible shape, and I don't know how. I mean, I assume it'll be. I hope it'll be kept in service for the foreseeable future, because I want to take more pictures there, and that may be my next project. Who knows? But yeah, this was a really fun shoot, chasing this work train down here, because it was it's a territory I'd never explored before, and I was amazed at the landscape, and it felt like it I don't know, it felt like it had never been explored before. Or had been lost to time, I should say. Had been lost to time. But that's about it. Thank you so much, and you can find some more of my photos in my portfolio at jstropphoto.com. Thank you to Lisa and Scott for having me, and yeah, I appreciate everything you guys have done for me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Oh my goodness, Joe. I wish I could have a camera on all of the audience members' faces as some of your photographs came through, because I think that they would be so varied and awe and crazy. Especially coming from a fellow theater lover, I think that your photography is so dramatic, and it makes me so happy that people are reacting so well to it. So well done. That was a beautiful presentation. And we have so many great questions coming through. And this is funny. Raphael Snow said, "Hi, Joe. Do you feel it's challenging to photograph the LIRR considering its lack of variety and limited scenic areas compared to other railroads?" And then later said, "I'd like to amend my question because, wow, you showed a lot more scenic areas than I ever knew existed. So how do you find these beautiful scenic areas in such a suburban setting?"
Really, it's I think the further east you go, the more you'll find. I think it's really there's a lot of territory further east that people just don't really shoot, and it's incredible. But I am generally drawn to nature. I'll always look up like when I look at a train line, I always think or a particular route, I'll look up to see if there are any nature preserves in the area, any hiking trails nearby that could possibly provide for vantage points. It's something that's always interested me, the combination of nature and trains. But I think really the further east you go, the more you find. I think for example, like along the Far Rockaway branch or the Hempstead branch or something, you're not going to have as many opportunities as the Montauk branch or the main line or the Port Jefferson branch.
Fantastic. Um, let's see. Ellis Simon said, "How often do you go out to shoot trains?"
Um, I try to it really varies because sometimes I get so involved in school and music and stuff, but I mean when I'm on a roll, I'm out there almost every day. But sometimes I'll go like a couple of weeks or a month between because I get wrapped up in other things like doing shows and all that stuff. So
Yeah, you're one busy dude. All right.
Well, can I tag on a question to
Oh,
that,
go
Lisa?
ahead, Scott. Yeah.
Joe, I'm just curious when, what inspires you to go out? I mean, is it do you find new ideas for shots that gets you excited to get out again? Do you just need to get out and scratch the itch? Like what's the motivation?
um when I'm on a roll, it's really the itch, like you said. I
Yeah.
feel like I have to get out and do something. I have to get out and take a photo today, and I'll find a way to do it somehow. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Tim Johnson wants to know how often does the LIRR upgrade the equipment?
Um, it's I mean the most recent addition was the M9s, which were about I guess like 5 or 6 years ago. They've been the next things to go, I think, to be replaced are the diesels and the M3s. But those they're a while off still. The new order came in for the new diesels. They're going to be Siemens Chargers and not instead of DE30 ACs. But um, I still think it's still a few years off, and it's not. I mean, the current diesel fleet, I think, is just as old, if not older, than the previous diesel fleet was at the time of their replacement. So it's not. Everything moves very, very slowly on the Long Island Railroad, unfortunately.
Except for the Cannonball.
Yeah, I mean, so unless there's a meltdown on the Montauk branch, then.
Excellent. Well, Elron, did you have any questions?
Um, uh, First, let me just say how wonderful this was. And I have never seen swarms of hearts go up in reactions to your photos like I have tonight. Th This was really fun. And I love how you found the character of the line. And it's not just the trains, it's everything. It's the urban settings, it's the scenery, it's all those little details you found. So, from someone who has shot in urban places in LA and in San Francisco, how do you navigate that world? Because definitely is its own animal to photograph trains in those settings. What advice would you have for people if they were photographing in that area?
Um, I would say that on the urban side, there are still surprisingly there are still bastions of position lights on the urban side, position light signals. A lot of them on the main line between, I mean, Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, and even east of Jamaica as well, like Queens Interlocking. I would say those are the spots that I would check out because those are real living history, and I think that I don't know how much longer they'll be around. Everything on all the signals on the railroad, it seems like all the signals on the railroad are being replaced with color light signals, reduced aspect signals that are
Hmm.
just don't have as much character. And I think those are really worth checking out, and a lot of the urban areas still have them. Also, the old railroad towers that they aren't active anymore, but I don't know how long they'll still be standing. So,
Hmm. Would you say these places, a lot of them seem like they were from station stops, but would you say that's the case? Or are you just, are you prowling the line, in places where there isn't a station stop and it might be a little sketchier?
um, I mean, as someone, I know there are other people who um go to overpasses and other locations in the city. Because I live so far from there, I haven't really had the chance to do that. So most of my urban photos are from station stops. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, your variety is incredible. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, and just a comment to add to that. This was one that came in through the chat, and I want to make sure we don't miss it. This is from our friend George Bulow, who was actually tuning in tonight while riding a subway
Oh
between
wow.
Brooklyn and the Bronx. And he said that several years back, he was asked to write a book about the Long Island Railroad, and he was given a group of photographs taken by somebody else. And he said they were kind of equipment based and just sort of indistinguishable from one another, and between that and the topography, he just couldn't find a way to make it interesting. And then he said, had he been given your photographs, a book would have worked.
That's very sweet. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Another one of our attendees said that it's so nice to hear someone that's local to the area pronounce everything like a local.
Now we know how to say these names correctly when we come to visit.
Yes.
And all of us from Wisconsin really appreciate you taking us to the most Midwestern part of Long Island tonight. It was an unexpected treat.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
really.
Well, I also wanted to mention that we had a couple of people mention pose names. So Oren, our good friend Oren, said we should call it the David P. Who Wants to Ride in the Cab?
I believe it's David P. Who wants to ride in the cab?
Yeah.
And we had another one that says engineers / conductors lean. So I thought that was a nice, wonderful, so we'll have to, Joe, you'll have to keep thinking about what the pose is called. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what that should be called too.
Right. All right.
Oh, and George also wants to know if you've been to shoot Grand Central Madison yet.
I should have mentioned that I have, but I haven't really gotten anything I found particularly satisfactory yet. But I have I go there every day because I go to school at Hunter College on the Upper East Side. It's
Oh,
a
yeah, of
beautiful
course.
facility, and I want to take more photos there, and I will definitely share more in the future if I can from
I
there.
got to see it last summer when I was in the city with our staff members, Inga and Adrian, and we were all three really impressed with the station and the really cool public art that's in it too.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Fantastic. All right, well, I think this could probably be the end. Just wanted to remind everybody that our next Zoom program will be Tuesday, June 17th. We're having Nick Ozerak come and talk about train videography, so should be a really good time. We will not be having a Zoom in May because of our annual conference, which is happening, and so yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone in June 17th. So yes, thank you, Joe. What a spectacular presentation. We're so grateful for the hard work and the beautiful photography you presented tonight. Well done, and we'll see everybody next time. Good night.
Night, everyone. Thanks so much. Great show, Joe.